Okay, we are ready to begin. Good evening. And we're starting a new mini-series within our Halacha class, going all the way back to the beginning of the laws of the Jewish morning routine, what we do when we wake up, how to wake up like a Jew, how to get out of bed like a Jew, how to get dressed like a Jew, how to just get ready for the day like a Jew. And I want to kind of give two introductions, two ideas, two thoughts before we get into it. And this is where we're in the Kitzur right at the beginning, chapter 1 of the Kitzur. But basically, learning these halachas, these laws, just two thoughts, two ideas that come to mind. First of all, we know that generally being Jewish, there's a lot of things that we do. Right? 613 mitzvahs. There's a lot of things that we have to do. And in many of the laws that we've studied till now, we spoke about many things which are very clearly Jewish ideas, Jewish ritual, whether it's the laws of blessings or the laws of Shabbos or the laws of kosher or the laws of the Jewish holidays, right? It's a Jewish thing, right? If I want to be Jewish, what separates me from another person? Because I'm Jewish, so I shake the lulav on sukkahs, and I sit in the sukkah, I hear the shofar, and I make a blessing before I eat, and I keep Shabbos, right? Very Jewish things. But then there's just like life. There's living life. There's eating, there's drinking, there's waking up, there's going to sleep, there's using the restroom, there's getting dressed, there's going to work, right? Just living, right? These are this is the area of life which we call the mundane area of life. And what's interesting is that these halachas really teach us that even that area of life has to be lived Jewishly. It says in the pasuk, that we should know God in all of your ways. Or another verse is, all of your actions, all your activities should be for the sake of heaven. So when you're putting on tefillin, of course you're doing that for the sake of it. Why else would you put on tefillin, right? Or if you are making kiddush on Friday night, what else are you doing it for? You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it because this is a mitzvah, right? There's no question about it. We don't question those areas, those rituals. But when it comes to other when it comes to other areas of life, things like the mundane area. Okay, so now I'm just like everyone else, right? And this is the halacha. So it's just an interesting letter of the Rebbe I saw many years ago, but really stuck with me. And it was a letter of a young woman, who was seeking out a relationship with someone, trying to find a shidduch, trying to find someone to marry, and she needed some guidance from the Rebbe. She asked the Rebbe for some guidance, and she was more of a religious person. It seemed like she was maybe like a recent, Baal Tshuva, someone that recently became, took on a lot of more observance of Judaism, and she was considering dating a man, a guy that wasn't on that level of observance as she was. Maybe it was a traditional person, but wasn't keeping Shabbos or whatever Judaism, whatever Torah mitzvahs on her level. And she was debating whether this is a smart idea for a choice to build a home together, a family together, when you have such different levels of observance in Judaism. So she asked the Rebbe his opinion. So the Rebbe, if I remember correctly, the Rebbe didn't actually give an answer like yes or no, but the Rebbe gave her some perspective or some guidance of how to see marriage, but more importantly, I think, how to see your observance of Torah mitzvahs. The Rebbe said that the difference between Judaism and other religions, Judaism isn't just about we do so many things, right? Like you're living as a Jew, it's not just a belief system. And it's not just that there's so many mitzvahs that basically takes over your lifestyle, because you're keeping kosher and you're keeping Shabbos, you're keeping family purity and you're keeping holidays. And so obviously it changes your lifestyle, right? Because you have to, so there's so many things that we do. It's not just about what we do, it's how we live. It's who we are. And therefore, when you're going into marriage, just keep that in mind. It's not just like I do 80% of mitzvahs, you do 50%. So whatever, it's not just what we do; it's who we are. It's how we live. And I think these halachas, the beginning halachas of the morning routine, kind of emphasize that idea of just life. But these are just like regular things. We all wake up in the morning. I've been waking up in the morning for 34 years, right? Right? We all wake up. We wake up, we wash up, we get ready, we get dressed, we eat, right? We get ready for work, right? We all do it. But there's a Jewish way of doing it. And this is what this set of halachas teaches us. What is a Jewish way of our morning routine? So that is my first thought. I'm trying to remember what my second thought was. I didn't write it down.
Maybe I'll take this away.
That's maybe help me. This may help me. Okay. Oh, here's the second thought. The second thought is that there's something unique about the morning in Jewish life. Obviously, every moment of the day we have to be serving God. Every moment of the day we have to feel like, what am I doing? And even when I'm doing the mundane, I'm eating, I'm sleeping, I'm doing work, I'm taking a walk, I'm doing it l'shem Shemaim, I'm doing it for Hashem. But there's this idea that the morning I'm dedicating for God. The Rebbe used to say a lot in regards to like bikurim, right? The mitzvah of the first fruit. Where in Israel, they used to take the ripened fruit of the special fruit of Israel, and they would bring it to the Beis Hamikdash as a gift, and thank Hashem for what we have. But it was specifically the first. And the idea was always that, like, the message of that was always like the first is the most precious, and the first is of anything is what really we have to dedicate to Hashem. So, like, comes to education, the former years, the younger years, when we really want to dedicate to Hashem, our children, more importantly than even adults. And even in our day, it's always the first hours of the day is really we want to say, you know what? I can't sit and study Torah all day, right? I have to support a family. So I have to go to work. I have to do mundane work. But if I had to choose which time in the day to do that, or which time of the day to study, or which time of the day to dedicate to God, always choose the morning, those hours. By the way, this also applies to education, where the Rebbe was very, very strongly emphasized this with Jewish schools, right? So schools teach Judaic studies and they teach secular studies, right? So how do you split your day? The Rebbe always would emphasize, if possible, have the Judaic studies first. Let the child know the first hours when my mind is fresh. You want to teach them what's most important. Choose the Judaic studies. And then later in the day, okay, you also have to study other things. You can study other things. But the first hours of the day, this is what we dedicate for God. And this is also these laws over here as well. Waking up in the morning, you want to wake up like a Jew. And wake up serving Hashem. So this is what we're going to study over the next few weeks. No, those are my two thoughts. Okay. And I can say L'chaim. Okay. So I'm going to read inside from the Kitzer. It's online. We'll go English. I don't have the English translation here with me. I'll do the Hebrew. I'll translate it. Maybe we'll add from other sources as well. So the first seif, the opening halacha of the Kitzer Shulchan Aruch 1:1. Shivisi Hashem Negdisam. It starts with a verse, which in many synagogues will have this over like the Ark Kodesh. Shivisi Hashem Negdisamid, that I place God in front of me constantly. I'm always thinking about Hashem. And the Kitzer tells us who klal God the b'teira v'ma'aseh. Think of this concept is a important principle in Torah. And for the people who are following the ways of Hashem, what does this mean? That we should always think and feel that we are sitting or standing before Hashem. And we understand that when a person is sitting or standing in his own place, in his own home, he's acting differently than when he's standing in front of a king, Malach Gadol. When he's standing in front of an important person, you act differently. Make sure your tie is straight and your hat is straight and you comb your beard and you don't just run. You act differently. The way you speak when you are with your family, with your close friends and your relatives is not the same way the way we speak when you're sitting in front of a king. When you're sitting in front of a king, you know that the king is watching every step and every move and every word that you utter. That should always be exactly correct. So therefore, you're much more careful with what you say and the way you act. So kol shekain, so for sure, kasha yasim ha'adam alibu, when a person would put this, take to heart and really understand and contemplate on the idea that Hamelech HaGodel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Malay Chaladas Kavayda, the great King, which is God, is Malay Chal Haaretz Kavayda. The entire world, the entire earth is filled with His glory, and He is standing on top of you, and He sees your actions. Like it says in the pasuk, Hashem says, is it possible for a person to hide the greatest hiding place? And I won't see him. Hashem says, I am filling the entire Shemayim, entire heaven, and entire earth. So I am everywhere. Can't hide from me.
What does it have to do with the
So for sure, if you think about this, like God is everywhere. So you're always in God's presence. So of course you'll have the proper awe and fear and subjugation to Hashem, and you're going to have this like feeling of like I can't just like do what I want in front of Hashem. Yeah.
No, I was going to say that we're introducing the morning. Then the first one we say is Shavisi Hashem L'negdi Tamid, always, and always to know it's not just morning.
Right, but I think the thing is even in the morning, which means, and this leads us to the next halacha, is that therefore when you wake up in the morning, you have to have this time of mind, and your morning is going to be very different if you're thinking, hey, I'm just in bed, no one's home, no one sees me, I'm just gonna whatever. Or you think, wait, God's here. God's here, right? How is your morning gonna look then, right? Knowing that, like, wait, I gotta get moving, right? I can't just hang around, right? So that is a introduction to the next halacha.
Sounds like a discussion. How about it? Till now, all your days, right?
You're right. There you're talking about all the days of your life. You always have to be preparing for Mashiach. Okay, so this is, but it's a good point, Jacob. So he's starting with that because this is like a lead up to the next halacha 2. Also, when you're laying on your bed, you should know in front of whom you are laying. And the moment when you wake up from your sleep, and he emphasizes there, miyad. Miyad means right away, not 10 minutes later, not after you press snooze 3 times, but miyad, right away. Yizkor chaste Hashem yisbar shema sha'asiyim. You should remember Hashem, and here he specifies, remember Hashem's kindness, what Hashem has done for you. What did Hashem do to you the moment you woke up? What kindness did Hashem bestow upon you? Not a half hour after you woke up, or a half hour before you. The moment you woke up, what kindness did God give you? Give you life. Exactly. You woke up. But we all know, unfortunately, not everyone wakes up. There are a number of people, whatever the percentage is, and I'm sure there's a number out there, of people who every morning don't wake up. Right? I'm sure there's a number. You Google it, right? And thank God we woke up this morning. Gotta thank Hashem for it. So right away, remember God's kindness. You, Hashem, returned your neshama, which you, right, the night before, you deposited to him a worn out, a tired neshama. And you returned the same neshama, but refreshed, it's recharged. It's like you go to sleep and your battery is on empty. And you wake up, the full battery. So too, we go to sleep, our neshama, which gives us our energy, is on empty, meaning it's tired, it's worn out with a long day. We go to sleep, our neshama goes up to Shemayim, or we know that there's a 60th of our neshama, 60th of our soul. We'll talk about it later when it comes to the laws of washing our hands. But part of our neshama goes up to heaven, to God. And when we wake up in the morning, first of all, he gives our soul back to us, and he gives it a freshly folded, laundered, nice, neshama. So we have to thank him, I guess, for two things. First of all, that for life, we have our life back. But in addition to that, we have it's a fresh new day. So we got to thank him for that as well. So we have a fresh day, so we're able to serve Hashem the entire day. Like it says in the pasuk, that every morning we are like new. Right? Every morning we are like a new person. And we have to thank Hashem with all our heart for this. And we say this even while we are in bed. This is the one prayer that we say even before we wash our hands, before until it's time. While we are in bed, right as soon as we wake up, we say, Moda ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayim, shechazarta bi nishmasi, v'chemla, rava, emunasecha. And this is probably the one of the more famous prayers that we say in our bed. I think someone once asked the Rebbe's mother, Rebbe Sachana. He asked, "What is your son's favorite prayer? What's your son's favorite tefillah?" The whole thick prayer book, right? There's so much to say. Well, what is it? And she said, "I don't know. I'll get back to you." So I'll ask him. A few days later, she got back to this fellow, and she says, "My son told me his favorite prayer is Modani. It's the Modani prayer. Modani is, thank you Hashem for giving me life, for returning my soul to me." And here's something interesting. It says, "V'yafsik ma'at ben tevas b'chemla v'tevas rabo." So for those who have a little bit of understanding of what the word that we're saying, there's a common mistake that people make when they say this verse, right? So it says, which means, I give thanks to you, living in the eternal King, which you have returned my soul within me. Bechemla. Bechemla means with compassion. With like compassion. Rabba means a lot. And munasecha, your faith. So how does the punctuation work? Where do you put the comma? Is it a lot of compassion, your faith, or return me with passion, your faith is great? You have a lot of faith. Where's the word Rabba go? Where does it fit? Right? So a lot of people say, B'chemla Rabba, lots of compassion, emunasecha, your faith. But the truth is, the comma is really before the word Rabba, which means B'chemla, you returned my soul within me with chemla, with compassion. Rabba munasecha, your faith is great. And we actually just mentioned the verse earlier, right? The word Rabba munasecha comes from that verse we mentioned, Chadashim Labkarim, Rabba munasecha. So that's where the source of this word is. So it's your faithfulness is great. And there are many interpretations. What does that mean? What does it mean faithfulness is great? I just mentioned in my class on Sunday morning, in my Parsha class, that Rabba Munasecha, according to one of the explanations, is that it's God's faith within us. Every morning we wake up and we say that we know that God has faith. Why did God give me my life back? Why did He give me another day? Just why not? Land me up, as we say. Another day, why not? Here, I'm a nice guy, I give you a day. No. Every person on payroll is there for a reason, right? If you're extra, we don't need you, we fire you. I'm saying private companies, don't think government. I'm saying private companies. If you are right, if we don't need you, we don't have you just on payroll, just why not, right?
Same way in the Torah, that there's no extra letter, extra word.
Exactly. There's no extra people. No extra people. And each person, we don't have extra days. We'll just round it up. Really, you can live for X amount. We'll just give you an extra couple of years. Why not? Right? No, it doesn't work this way. Every day is because God needs us here. We have a mission. We have a purpose. So the fact that God gave us this day is because God has faith within us that we will use out this day properly. We will live up to our mission. We will have that productive day. So it's like not just that God gave us a day, but God gave us a day knowing that we have the ability and the capability to accomplish what we have to accomplish that day. Anyway, so that's just but just when we're saying it, whether we understand whatever the explanation is, but the comma is mentioned that we say Chemla Rabba, Shechazar Devi Nishmasi Bechemla, comma, Rabba Munasach. Now, something interesting is that, like it mentions over here in the parentheses, that even if our hands aren't clean, which means even before we wash, or we say in Yiddish Negovas, before we wash Netilat time, we also say this prayer, but generally we don't say anything. We don't mention God's name. We don't mention anything before we wash our hands. And we'll see this later because our hands have this tumah, this it's unclean, spiritually unclean. So therefore we don't pray before washing your hands. But this prayer we say while we're in bed. While we're in bed, and obviously after we say it so many times, you know it by heart already. But if you don't know by heart, we should have a little paper printed out so you can say it in bed, even before we wash our hands. And there's many explanations given to it. The Rebbe actually has like a long essay explaining the significance of the Moedan. It's a beautiful, beautiful essay. And one of the ideas is that the Moda'ani has a connection to like the essence of a Jew, the essence of the neshama. And the essence of the neshama is above any type of ritual impurity. So therefore, even while our hands are ritually unclean, we're able to say the Moda'ani. So here's an interesting question I just noticed, I just saw today. So in Hebrew, we say Moda'ani, right? Moda means thanks, or ani, Moda'ani, I give thanks, right? Now, in Hebrew, the way the grammar works in Hebrew is that there's masculine and there's feminine, right? There's lashon zachar, lashon nekeva. So modeh, when there's a segel, right? The modeh ani is when a man is saying it. For a man, we say modeh ani. How would a woman say this? Moda. It's a kamatz. So moda ani. So the question is, do women say moda ani, or do they also say modeh ani? So he was saying that some Shurim, they actually say that the women say moda, and the men say moda. In our Chabad says it doesn't say that. And someone actually once asked the Rebbe, like, what do we do? And the Rebbe said, basically said, do whatever your custom is. Like every family or every community does that. He didn't give them a
because the
definitive answer. Oh, exactly. I want to say. So today I saw someone that wrote, it wasn't my thing. It wasn't mine. I saw someone else write this. That because according to Chassidus, exactly. It talks about why the transcend tumah. It's because it's talking about the etzem on the neshama, the essence of the neshama. The essence of the neshama is above gender. It's not.
So why is it masculine?
No, because that's everything with Hashem. Because because we use masculine when we're talking about something
Generic.
Generic, right? But it's not because it's masculine over feminine. It's just this. When you come to lower levels of the neshama, so then you have masculine levels and there's the feminine levels, right? There's the malchus, the shchira. There's different, Chassidus, Kabbalah. There's many different levels of our neshama, levels of God. But when it comes to the essence is the essence, right? So the essence is higher than any gender. So therefore, maybe that's the reason why, according to our custom, we say modeh, regardless. We all say modeh. I mean, that's just an interesting idea. Our custom, and this is a custom that was written by the previous Rebbe in a Maimer, actually. He says that our custom is that when we say Moda'ani, I'm not sure if it's written in the Maimer or it's written in the book of Mamarim, Sefer Mamarim. He writes that our custom is that we put our hands together. Put our hands together while we say this. He doesn't give a reason. This is what we do. Now, it's explained, we don't go like this necessarily, because it's not necessarily a Jewish way of doing things, but we kind of put our hands together like this. And we kind of bow our head a little bit. So even though we're in bed, we don't say it necessarily lying down. We kind of sit up, put our hands together, bow our head a little bit, and we say the Moda'ani that way. And again, before even washing our hands. And ideally, as we'll see soon, even before putting our feet down on the ground. So we're really in our bed, first thing in the morning, we say the Moda'ani. The Rebbe writes somewhere that the Moda'ani is such an important prayer that we teach children to say it as soon as they're able to talk, as soon as they're able to speak, 2 years old, 3 years old, we already teach them to say Moda'ani on their own. One of the first prayers that we teach a child is already, even a child who isn't praying the rest of the prayer, they're not able to pray, if they're singing a few songs in school, but they're not really praying in Hebrew, but the Moda'ani is something that we teach them to say right when they wake up. Even if they're going to say Moda'ani later, you go to school in preschools, they sing Moda'ani, part of the prayer routine, right? But nevertheless, you want to teach them that even if you're going to say it later, but they should know that the first thing you say in the morning is not, hey, mommy, take me out of bed. The first thing you say in the morning is Moda'ani. Thank you, Hashem, for returning my soul. And the Rebbe goes a step further, that even children, babies, infants who aren't able to speak, our custom is that we already sing or say the Moda'ani for them, or to them, or for them, or while they're in the, maybe in the crib. We just took them out of bed. The first thing we say is Moda'ani. Like we sing the Moda'ani with them or for them, even before they're able to say it on their own. And obviously, even though they're not verbalizing it, but I'm sure it has an impact on them. And obviously, I guess it's ingrained within them, the importance. Right away you wake up in the morning, you already say Moda'ani. So that is just a few ideas of the Moda'ani, which are not written clearly here in the Kitzur. Okay. We go to the third halacha, right? Any questions? Halacha 3. Not missing anything over here. Here we have a famous saying. I believe this is from Pirkei Avos, right? I believe it is. Ethics of the Fathers. Yehuda ben Tema Omer. A quote of a man by the name of Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Tema. He says, we are compared to 4 different types of animals, birds. Havi'az kanomer. We should be bold like an eagle. Kal kanesher. We should be light like a leopard. We should be bold like a leopard. Kal kanesher means light like an eagle. Rotz katzvi. We should be fast. We should run as fast as a deer. The gibor ka'ari, and we should be strong like a lion. Lazes to do the will of our Father in heaven.
I think Muhammad Ali mixed the animals up a little bit.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Why like a butterfly, sting like a bee?
Yeah,
You mixed
okay.
it up. You didn't think yourself.
But here, like the eagle, right? So there's actually lots of significant, lots of explanation given to each of these 4. Here in the Kitzur, we give one explanation for each of these 4 ideas. What does it mean? And obviously, like we said, it's obviously about the morning routine. If we're getting our day started, we should obviously keep this in mind.
What was the third and fourth one again?
So there's the third one is you should run like a deer, fast like a deer, and you should be strong like a lion.
Yeah.
Hippocrates, right? So what does this mean? The first one is az kanomer, bold like a leopard. Pirushoi shelo yisbayish mipnei be'adam hamalikim. This is a very powerful idea. In fact, in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, the order is actually a little different, and this idea is actually the opening, right? When authors are choosing the opening of a book, they think long and hard, because a book could either be successful or a failure just on the opening paragraph, right? I'm either going to read it if I like the opening paragraph. If I don't like it, I'm not going to read it. So, like, right, it has to have like a good opening. So, what's the opening of the Shulchan Aruch? So, the Alter Rebbe, and I believe this is also in the original Mechaber, they open with this idea of what does it mean to be bold like a leopard, not to be embarrassed, not to from people who are chastising, who are making fun, who are belittling you for your service to Hashem. And this is a very important idea, because like it's not just, hey, another thing we have to think of. Like this is in a way the most important thing when we're starting our day, and we know that there are other people, perhaps our surroundings, in our workplace, in our neighbors, and something we feel like we don't want to like be in their face, right? Or even though in their face, and we're like sometimes they know what's going on, and we're kind of ashamed with what we do. It's more like I know this is the right thing, but I don't really have to explain it, so I'm just going to keep it between me and God, right? And in fact, people went so far during the height of anti-Semitism. The Jews came to America during the war, before the war, after the war, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. The saying, I believe it began in Germany. The saying was, you're a Jew at home and a non-Jew in the streets, right? Or like, keep your Shabbos, keep your Jewish clothing, keep your yarmulke, keep your mezuzah, keep it in your house. Outside of the house, just be like everyone else. And I think this is what this idea of the Shulchan Aruch is telling us over here is that I used many times the Rebbe used to say, it's the first seif, it's the first halacha in the Shulchan Aruch. Right away, the most important thing, the opening of the Shulchan Aruch, we chose to tell us this idea. Don't be ashamed of who you are.
Don't be afraid of your spot. Don't be ashamed of your spots.
Don't be afraid of your spots. Don't be afraid of your own shadow, right? It's it's who we are. It's who we are. Yeah. So that's what it means to be bold like a leopard. Bold like a leopard. I'm bold. This is who I am, and I'm proud of it. Right? That's first of all. Second of all is kal kanesha, light like an eagle.
Are leopards generally proud animals?
Tell me.
I guess so.
I don't know.
I thought it was because their spots kind of look like a peacock's feather. They just got their spots.
I'm saying is that his question is that like is that something you can read on National Geographic? Like, do they tell you the same thing?
Now, Oz doesn't mean proud, it means like bold, right?
Bold, not like proud. Bold means like just go ahead and do it. Like don't
Maybe they
don't be ashamed.
attack about
Maybe leopards. Yeah,
Just
maybe
do it.
they just like
Right.
they want they have their eye on something, have the prey, and then they go ahead and they don't really perhaps more than other animals. I don't know.
I was actually gonna say more like you. I thought that like leopard, like it has spots, and it's not like you pretend it's a different animal. Like, you go to leopard and say like, and it's gonna like not hunt in the wild because it's afraid of who it is or doesn't want to like, reflect who it truly is. Like a leopard is a leopard. It looks like how it is, and it will always hunt like a leopard.
every animal doesn't. Chickens don't embarrass being a chicken.
I guess that's true.
I don't know, maybe they do.
I don't know. You speak to the chickens.
I wonder if there's like something specific with a leopard, the way it hunts or the way it acts.
Like it's a tiger.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe a leopard. You know, they always have a thing. What's the difference between a leopard and a cheetah? That they kind of look similar, but they have different types. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. The second idea is kal kanesha, like an eagle. What does this mean? Kineged ru'us ha'inayin. What does that mean? Loimar shtehei kal latze meinecho meirois bera ki hu hascholas ha'avera ayin roya va'alev choymed k'limaisa goyimri. So here he explains what does it mean, light like an eagle. It's referring to holding ourselves back from what we see. But sometimes just seeing the wrong things or seeing inappropriate things, that could already be the beginning, the first step of an actual avera, first actual sin, because first you see, then the heart desires, and then you actually go ahead and do it. So somehow, I'm not sure what the connection between this and like an eagle is, but the idea is somehow it's connected to the idea of refraining from looking at things, of seeing things that are inappropriate. So be careful with what you see. The Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Chabad Rebbe, writes a long, very, very sharp letter talking about the impact that sight has on a person. Everything a person sees. So even if something like subconsciously, we didn't even like internalize it seemingly, but it made an impact on our brain. It's like a photocopy. It's there, and perhaps things that we do later or things that we say later, not even realizing it's because of something that we saw. And it's like it's an image, right? We all know there are certain things that we saw many years ago that are still like there imprinted in our minds. So that's why even more than hearing things is seeing. The seeing is has a very strong impact on our soul. That's why you have to be so important. It's so careful with the things that we see. And this also applies to our education. We're talking about our children, to making sure that they see good things, holy things, Jewish things. The Rebbe had a very almost like a campaign talking about children being surrounded with kosher animals. So we want to buy a stuffed animal for a child. You could buy a teddy bear, you could buy a nice, even a leopard or a dog or whatever it is, right? But there's something special when a child is surrounded with kosher animals or Jewish photos in the house, right? Things that positive things that the child sees has a positive impact on the child. So here we're talking about more in the negative, not holding ourselves back, refraining from seeing things that we shouldn't be looking at. So that is the idea of like an eagle.
I do remember that this could be inaccurate, but the eagle's eyes have a long focal effect, whereas like almost looking through binoculars. So they can see it very far away, but it's very focused. They're not wide vision. They're not seeing everything. Whatever it's like.
Interesting. So maybe that's what it's referring to.
Yeah.
That be very focused what you see and don't. I mean, the idea of sight is
Right.
there's unique.
Far, but
There's a unique idea of sight when it comes to an eagle. Interesting. Because it helps them maybe with their prey, with their interesting. Okay. The third idea is ratz katzvi, which means you should run fast like a deer. And this is referring to kineged haraglayim, sheraglechol l'toiv yuru, so that our feet should always run to do good things, to do a mitzvah. Like it says, oh, look at that.
Is right.
Like it says, when you're running, when you're going to shul, it says that when you're going to shul, you should walk fast, or even run to shul. But when you're leaving shul, even if you're a little bit of a hurry, you shouldn't run home. Even if you're not trying to run away from shul, you just whatever, you're in a rush. But the fact that you're running away from shul, it doesn't look good. It's like, hey, you're so glad finally shul's over, I get to run home, right? So here's referring to the idea of running to good things. You're running to do a mitzvah. You're running to help someone else. You're running to, right? That's the idea of you should be like when it comes to doing something good, we shouldn't be lazy. We shouldn't say, someone else will do it. Or I'll do it soon. I'll do it later. Alacrity. You should do bezrizus quickly. That's the idea of you should be fast and run like a deer.
What if it's post Ma'ariv Yom Kippur?
So this is the
And I think Friday night when the donut alarm starts, that's the cue that you sneak, put away your siddur and start the.
right. Yeah. You know
False start.
the famous story. Elena once complained to Hashem, right? The Elena prayer once complained to Hashem, says, not fair. Unlike the queue when everyone's already done, right? Oh, it's singing Elena, we start putting towels, you put the siddur away, we already start getting into the kitchen to prepare the kiddush, right? We're already half out the door. We're already, Elena is like, it's not right. Elena is such a beautiful, by the way, it is a beautiful prayer. Elena is such a beautiful prayer. Why, I'm always said in a haste. So Hashem says, okay, for you, you're right. I'll put you on the holiest day of the year. I'll put you smack in the middle of the prayer. That's in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. You have Elena right in the. I can't say that's why. I'm saying, it's like this. Well, at least a few times a year, we're actually saying Elena properly with the proper.
Does Chabad also bow on the floor?
Yes. During Elena, yeah. I'm saying on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
So that is the third. Always to run to do something, to do a mitzvah, to do something good. The Gibor Kardi, strong, mighty, like a lion. Kineged Halev. What does he mean to be mighty? What is true might? This is a beautiful idea that the Pirkei Avos also talks about. Izehu Gibor. Who is a strong person? Who is a mighty person? Someone who has
Control over his Yisrael.
Someone who has control. The strongest thing, the most difficult thing that a person has is to overcome our inclination, our temptations, our instincts, right? And you need a lot of might. It's a weakness that we all have. So what does it mean, true might? To be like a lion, not to be strong and do Hagba when the Torah is voracious and it's on the left side, right? That's not Gibor Kardi, right? It's not the person who's able to pick up tables and schlep things, right? That's not Gibor Kardi. Gibor Kardi means someone who's able to overcome a temptation. And no one may ever know about this. This might be between you and God. But you are able to overcome a temptation, you are a Gibor Kardi. You are a Gibor. You're a true hero. You're a true mighty person. The true strength in serving Hashem is in your heart. So the Yehuda ben Tema is telling us we have to strengthen our heart in serving God to overcome the Yetzer, the inclination, and to win it, to be victorious over it. Just like a strong, mighty person is fighting over an enemy to overcome it and to throw the other person to the ground, so too we are fighting, we are wrestling with our Yetzer, our evil inclination, and when we are successful, we are now a Gibor, we are a true mighty person who is able to overcome our temptations. And halacha 4 kind of, the third halacha is kind of leads right into halacha 4. Lachein, and therefore, what does it mean? So this is like, what is the first temptation we have in the morning? Jacob, what's your first temptation you wake up? My first temptation I wake up in the morning is to press news.
Ah,
The first thing,
that's a good one.
right? First temptation is I need another few minutes. I needed my head back on the pillow. I saw the time. Okay, good. Have another few minutes.
That's not a temptation. That's a fact.
Right? But it feels good, right? Is it a weakness or is it a strength?
That's too real.
Is it a weakness or is it a strength? The fact that I'm giving myself another few minutes, is it because, I really feel like if I have another few minutes, I have a much better day? Is that really what it is? I really feel like
That 3 minutes is gonna
I really want to get up now. I'm jumping to get out of bed, but I really feel the responsible thing is to give me another few minutes, right? Is that what's going through our mind? Or is it, yeah, it's fine. A few minutes is fine, right? It's okay. They say, right, the throwing responsible. It feels, they say the story where there's like a young man gets married, and it's the first few days after the wedding, and they're staying, with the in-laws, and he really wants to impress his father-in-law. He says he's going to wake up early, 5 a.m. He's going to wake up. He's going to get prepared. He's going to daven. He's going to learn for a while. Daven. He wants to impress his father-in-law. He's a real man, real oiven, a true Jew that really takes life seriously, and he's not going to wake up whatever. So he sets his alarm for 5 o'clock in the morning. He's all excited. He goes to sleep. Alarm rings at 5 a.m. First instinct is, let's go. It's 5 a.m. This is the plan. It's working. Jump out of bed. And then he has a little feeling, so that the Yetzer Hara is on the left side, right? So the evil inclination tells him, 5 a.m. 5:15 is also going to be fine, right? Also very early. It's okay. You're tired. Give us another few minutes. So he's about to put his head back on the pillow, and then his Yetzer Toiv, his godly soul on the right side says, no, listen, you said 5 o'clock. Come on, you can do it. 5 o'clock. Just get out of bed. You're ready up. Don't let this opportunity pass. And then his evil inclination says, yeah, another few minutes, and get up. Stay in bed. Get up. Stay in bed. Struggling back and forth. Who eventually won? The Yetzer Toiv eventually won. For 4 hours, they were struggling. Okay.
Is that why we look
We just came out of a whole wrestling match over here, right? We finally got out of there. Okay, so therefore, because we know we have to be strong like a lion, not give in to temptations. What's the first weakness that we have? The first temptation is to stay in bed. So right away, the halacha tells us, right when you wake up, and right after you say, Moida'ani, and right away, you should quickly get up. You should quickly wake up to serve Hashem, and you shouldn't even wait for a Yetzer Hara to come around. Shouldn't even wait, right? That's what it says. Even before the Yetzer Hara comes, I'll give you a reason and explanations and responsibility. Of course, you should stay in bed, right? He comes up with a lot of creative ideas of why we should stay in bed. He's a chacham, right? Chacham uksil, right? He's a wise man. He's a sly, but he's wise. So before you even give him an opportunity, hey, you woke up. You get the time Yetzer Hara shows up. Hey, I'm out of bed already. You're out of bed, right? Interesting thing over here is that the Alter Rebbe in his Shulchan Aruch, he ends that yes, you should wake up right away, and you shouldn't let the Yetzer Hara even come, but you shouldn't jump out of bed. Meaning, when you wake up, you should still give a few moments. It doesn't give a time. It says v'yisha ma'at, which means you wake up, you say my dad, and you get up. But you shouldn't jump out of bed the moment you wake up. Now, interesting thing I saw, I'm not sure if this is like a real thing, but it says that maybe the nurse could talk to this. That if you wake up right away, you jump out of bed, very often you get like dizzy, right? You feel like a little like a faint, right? You ever experienced that, right? With
Yeah.
blood rushing, right? You have to like put your head down sometimes. So they say that if you wait like 11 seconds, that's like the time. I think it's 11, right? And someone pointed out that how many words are there in Modani? Modani lefanecha, melech chayv shalad v'inish maseh b'chama. 12 seconds. I remember the same amount. 12 seconds, right? If you wait 12 seconds, that's when that's the time it takes, and then you can get out of bed. So saying with the ani is 12 words. So if it takes you a second a word, that's exactly 12 seconds. Whatever, just a thought. But either way, the Alter Rebbe says they should kind of give yourself a few seconds and then get out of bed. But not enough time for the Yetzer Hara to come and start convincing you to stay in bed. So the Shulchan Aruch kind of gets into the whole discussion over here. That in the winter, the Yetzer Hara is going to come and tell you, why are you getting up out of bed? It's so cold outside. And in the summer, they're going to say, how are you getting up so early? You went to sleep late, because right in the summer you go to sleep late, so you're not, you're still tired, right? Or any other thing that the Yetzer Hara comes to you, because the Yetzer Hara is good at his work. He knows how to trap people, and therefore, a true person, a God-fearing person, should not even allow him to come and start talking to you. Or right away, you should get out of bed and obviously not listen to your Yetzer Hara. And then he brings a second point. Interesting, food, like almost like a food, like a little tool. Like if this doesn't work, you can try that. So the first thing is just get out of bed, right? Gibur Ka'ari, be strong like a lion. Now, if you feel a little heavy, you feel a little lazy, so the Shulchan Aruch gives us something else to think about. Yosim Magamosei L'Tzoyin Melech Malachim Mochem Kadosh Baruch Hu. You should try to understand, to feel that you have to. Your mission now is to fulfill Hashem's will. And the Alter Rebbe adds over here, not that you should say, "Oh, I'll stay in bed. I'll like to say that breakfast in bed. I'll study in bed. I'll daven in bed." No, it doesn't work that way, right? You should say like this: if you wanted to read or do something, imagine if you got a phone call that you have an appointment, and if you come to this appointment, you have a great business opportunity. You make a lot of money. $10,000, Jacob. You are at 7:15 a.m. You're at this place. You have an opportunity. You can make big bucks, right?
I won't even wait till 11 seconds in the morning.
Exactly, right? Or someone told you that if you come to this place, we'll save you the headache of losing, will prevent loss of money for you, right? Like you heard, for example, that there's your storage home, your storage, whatever, your business is on fire. If you come quickly, you will have an opportunity to take out the fires. You'll save your money, right? Of course, you'll jump out of bed because you don't want to lose your money, right? If you have an important meeting, if you have a ticket, a plane to catch, you wake up, right? You don't want to lose, you miss it, right? So same thing applies if you have to go serve Hashem or serve the king. You will wake up right away, and you wouldn't be lazy and wait around. Right? You want to make sure you're there on time, and the king is happy with you. So Allah has come of the kamos. Of course, when it comes to serving at the King of all kings, of course, you should be careful to wake up right away and quickly. He gives us some good advice. Maybe you never tried it before. If you tried this 4 or 5 times, you'll see it gets easier. About the time, Messiah says, whoever tries to do it right, God always helps you out. So this is what we should be thinking. The moment we wake up in the morning, Gibur Kardi, strong like a lion. Like I said, it applies to the whole day. You always have to be strong like a lion. You always have to work on on not giving in to that weakness and do what's right. But it's already applicable the first moment in the morning where right away we wake up right away when we get up. Someone's told me, I'm trying to remember who and when, that somehow, the Rebbe had obviously a very unique schedule. He slept, if he slept, it was an hour, 2 or 3 a night. It wasn't much. But someone said that some of the people that were with the Rebbe in his house or whatever, they noticed that sometimes we kind of wake up in the middle of the night and go back to sleep, right? Woke up. But with the Rebbe, the moment he woke up, he was up. He didn't go back to sleep. So he slept for an hour and a half. He woke up. He didn't turn over and go back to sleep. It was like, you woke up, you're ready up. Like, if you woke up, it means you're supposed to be up. No, obviously, if you woke up in the middle of the night, you're obviously sure you should go back to sleep. The point is, there's this idea of like, okay, now I'm up. So it's not like, hey, I'll give yourself another half hour. No, if you're up, get out of bed. Listen, this is what it says over here, and we have to try to implement it as much as possible. That we should not give in and to laziness and get up and start our day. And I guess the idea is, again, it kind of goes to what we said earlier. We see life as a mission. It's not just things that we have to do. So I have a to-do list. Oh, today my to-do list is a lot shorter. I can do less. It's not just about to-do list. It's I have a mission. So I wake up in the morning. I'm starting my day. I'm starting my mission. I'm going to learn, right? There's a fire burning within me, right? So therefore, you wake up in the morning. It's not just okay. I'll lazy around. Until I get my day started. Wake up right away. Go ahead with it. Okay. What time is it, by the way?
It's 5 till.
Okay. So just to finish the first siman. So the next 3 halachas are like not directly connected to our morning routine. I'm not going to read it inside, but the halacha 5 teaches us something, a concept that you'll find in some communities still do it till today. It's the concept of tikkun chatzos. Have you heard of tikkun chatzos? Tikkun chatzos is this concept that people wake up at chatzos. Chatzos means midnight, midday or midnight. So already at midnight, some people wake up and they do what's called tikkun chatzos, which means they say certain prayers talking about the sadness of the destruction of the temple, of the Beis Hamikdash. And I think it's even in our siddur, not in the. I don't think it's in the English blue siddur, but like in the original, if you go to the full version of the Chabad siddur, there is a few pages, I believe, right? I never did this before, but it is in there. And when I was in Israel, and I once spent all night in Jerusalem, and went to a few different places during the night, I saw in certain places that they were doing tikkun chatzos right at midnight, whatever it is, 12:30, 1 o'clock, 1:30, different times of year, where people get together on their own with a minyan, and they do the certain prayers in the middle of the night. But it's something that is sourced in Gemara. I'm saying it's not a made-up thing, even though our custom is that we don't do it, but there are many, even within Chabad, there are many throughout the generation. There are many people who did do it. It's a certain thing they wake up in the middle of the night.
In yeshiva, I asked the Shapiro, which I told them, why don't people do it today? Most people don't do it today. Used to be everyone used to do it. Many people used to do it. So the answer was that if they do it, you don't know they do it.
Right.
I mean, it's not something that anyone who does it, they do it privately. It's not something.
So I mean, like in Israel, these were not private. These were like almost like a minyan. Like you have shachris at this time and mincha at that time, and tikkun chatzos at this time right over here. The Rebbe himself perhaps did it.
The Rebbe said when the Rebbe came,
He mentioned that that's
mentioned my son-in-law. Notice, recognize someone who this and this.
Right. So if you notice, the way, like ideally, the schedule, the structure of the day, the way it's supposed to be for those who do tikkun chatzos, is that we go to sleep early. When it gets dark, people go to sleep early, right? So in the winter, we're talking about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. You daven Meir, when you go to sleep, what are you gonna do? It's dark, right? People didn't stay up a little bit, but they went to sleep early, and then they woke up at midnight. And then they did tikkun chatzos, an hour, 2, however long it took, and then they would remain up for the night. And that was Then they remained up, and they were up for the rest of the day. And there's this concept where David HaMelech says that I wake up in the morning. The morning does not wake me up. And the idea is that the person is supposed to be up before dawn. So they're awake before the morning, like a rooster, right? So before the rooster, right? You're waking up. So that's the idea. You wake up at chatzos at midnight. You do it in chatzos, and then you remain up, continuing to study until the morning.
Strong like a lion, wake up like a rooster.
Before the rooster.
The whole video.
So you can read it inside in Halacha 5, and different things that people should learn after chatzos. Okay. Halacha 6. Halacha 6 is interesting. Again, it's put in here because of the idea of learning by chatzos and at night, so we throw it in here as well. There's this concept that we should not recite verses of the written Torah, which is the whole Tanakh, Torah and Nevi'im Ksuvim. We should not recite them by heart without reading them inside. Unless they're shigurim b'fiyakol, which means there's certain things like you're mentioning a verse, or you're mentioning like Pashas Hazina, or certain things that everyone knows it by heart. So those you could, but like Tehillim, for example, or whatever things, you shouldn't say it by heart. Read it inside.
Like even like a small little phrase or.
Oh, so what about a small little phrase? So I think a small little phrase is allowed. You hear all the time people are quoting verses, psukim from the Torah.
You just say it in like the gist of it.
Oh, so if you notice, and I noticed, and so at some point this out to me as well. But if you ever hear the Rebbe's talks, right? So the Rebbe's also speaking Yiddish, hours and hours, right? And during his talks, he quotes many psukim from Tanakh, right? Anytime the Rebbe quotes a complete pasuk, not just like Bereshis bara Elokim, that's a half a pasuk. If I say Bereshis bara Elokim, remember, right? I say the whole verse from beginning to end. Generally, almost every time, the Rebbe changes something, changes a vowel, changes a word, mispronounces something. It's never exactly the way it's written. He never recites a full verse exactly the way it's written. Either it's only a part of the verse, or he generally, you ever noticed that again? Next time you hear a sikha, the Rebbe doesn't always quote full psukim, but like if the Rebbe is quoting a full pasuk, generally it's like, now I'm not sure, seemingly you are allowed. I'm not saying this is a halacha. Like I'm saying it's interesting that seemingly that's the reason. The reason, like the source of that idea is because it says you shouldn't be saying the Torah, as we know, there's a written Torah, is an oral Torah, right? The Torah that was written, the Torah and the prophets and the writings. And there's an oral Torah, and the oral Torah was meant to be oral, and the written Torah is meant to be written. And the written Torah should not be said oral. You shouldn't say it by heart. And the oral Torah was not supposed to be written. It came a time where they realized that the oral Torah was going to be forgotten. So they started writing down the oral Torah. We have the Mishnah, we have the Gemara, right? That's all the oral Torah written down. Because they felt that this was the right thing to do at that time. It was based on a pasuk that they realized this is the right thing to do. But the written Torah, no reason to say it orally unless it's something that has to be done. But then this is the concept. So I think it's mentioning it over here because in the previous halacha we mentioned about different things that we're learning and saying throughout the night. So it says that just be aware that when you're saying certain things from Teresh B'Ksav, you should not say it by heart. The Summa Mutter. However, if someone who's blind is obviously able to say it. Yeah.
It seems like She'enam Shagurim B'Fiyakol, it's not known to everybody. You shouldn't do it by heart. That would seem that if it's part of davening, Ashrei, everybody knows by heart. It's in the city every day. It's something which is a davening you probably could say by heart.
Exactly.
Because everyone knows.
Yeah, things that everyone knows for some reason it's allowed.
The
example I gave is also like Parshas Hazino. There's like this concept that many people they learn the Parshas Hazino by heart. Right. So like a lot of kids they just know Hazino. Or Ashrei, or whatever, any of the psukim, the Tehillim that we have in davening, what? Shema. Yeah, these are all things that everyone knows, so those are allowed. But if I quote some pasuk that not everyone knows, then better not to say the whole pasuk or things like that.
Tehillim Baal Peh is not.
Tehillim Baal Peh?
That's not something. That's why Mishnah is Baal Peh.
Right.
Good thing you have to put Baal Peh. You don't have some sort of an idea.
You don't have a concept of learning
Baal Peh.
Exactly.
It has to be. try and make
exactly.
the
Right. It's like he was mentioning that there is this concept that people learn, let's say, Mishnah is by heart.
You walk around saying.
Meaning, obviously you learn Mishnayos and you learn the inside to understand it, but there's, in addition to like learning Mishnayos to understand it, there's also this concept of just saying words of Mishnayos. When you're walking in the street or even wherever you are, you can just have words of Torah on your mouth. You're kind of saying words of Torah. So it says that specifically try to do Mishnayos. I think the Rebbe, and now that you said this, the Rebbe has a long letter explaining because the previous Rebbe had this like initiative to do Mishnayos. So I think in this letter he talks about this concept. Maybe I should look that up again.
Specifically, that would be a good one to
What?
start with.
Mishnayos?
Yeah.
Any Mishnayos.
And we say one every day in the morning brachos in the morning.
Yeah,
Maybe the garden. So maybe that people know that already by heart. So you walk in somewhere and say what you say.
Yeah, that's a good point. El Devarim is a Mishnah. You might not know this, but there's some comes in the price, I think, right? Yeah. Yeah. The idea is to have words of Torah. So
Oral Torah.
or because the written Torah is not supposed to be said by heart, so we do the oral Torah. There are many people who say Tehillim by heart, not because they study it by heart, but just because, like, I mean, my great grandfather, he was in labor camps, sent in Russian labor camps, like he was, chopping wood or whatever it is, building whatever he was building, and he would say Tehillim while he was doing it, because whatever, saying Tehillim all day. Anyways, another thing that's not mentioned over here is the idea of reading or saying the written Torah at night. It's also a concept that's not written over here. I didn't really have time to really research it, all the reasons behind it, but there is this concept not to say or read the written Torah at night, from nightfall, I guess, till midnight. It's just fine. Written Torah. So, for example, Tehillim. It's better not to say Tehillim from nightfall to midnight. Obviously, we daven and we say Tehillim and daven, but in addition to that, one of the reasons why, for example, the night of Hoshana Rabbah, we always say Tehillim at midnight, and we don't say Tehillim before midnight. And even studying Chumash, we only study Chumash at night if we're studying it with a commentary. So if we're studying it with Rashi or any other commentary on the oral Torah, that's fine. But just to read Chumash itself, it's better not to. Shana Rabbah we do, but better not to. Unless it's a holiday. Unless it's a holiday. So Friday nights and Yom Tov for sure, even more than Friday night. Yeah, so we do that. But like otherwise, we try not to do it to read or written Torah. It's not the worst sin you do. But the saying this is just just the concept. We should know. If all is equal, you might as well, if you know this in advance, you might as well do it before or after. Okay. The last thing was just to finish off the Siman, Halacha 7. Yesh limchois biyad ha'oimrim techina shebemamodos shemesayim baruch Hashem shemei tefillah v'chein matzisim v'yeshem baruch shemei tefillah b'leishem malchus. So this is something, again, it's not really something applicable to us, but for those who do say certain prayers at night or whatever, so they sometimes they say Hashem's name, where it seems like it's better not to say Hashem's name when you conclude that prayer. Okay, so that is Siman Aleph, the first halachas in regards to waking up in the morning. Next time we'll go to halacha Siman Bey, Siman 2, which deals with the morning Netilat Yadayim, the morning Negovasa, as we say, the morning ritual of washing your hands, and obviously a lot.
We have a great book. Literally just about that. So that's about the whole thing.
Take care, Yishai.